Okay.
So if you want to ask for any other board members who are present who weren't asked to vote, that would be a good way to do it.
Are there any other board members out there that weren't asked to vote?
Scott O'Connor votes aye.
So Scott, what are you, would that be SJOCO?
Yes.
Okay, I'll remember that for next time, sir. Sorry. I don't know who 204822 is, and I don't know who VAAJK5 is.
Okay.
Maybe they're Russian bots. They haven't responded.
Okay, very good.
I'm VAAJK5. I apologize. This is my work computer, but I'm Scott Bonin.
Oh, hi, Scott. Sorry.
Hey, how you guys doing?
That's all you're identified as on this. So
I know. Sorry about that.
204822 remains a mystery then. Anyway, moving on.
Okay, so we're on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the April meeting minutes.
We did that.
Does anybody have anything that they'd like to, any modifications they'd like to see to the minutes? No, the April thing.
And if anyone needs to see them, I can do a share screen if we need to review anything.
Okay, nobody has anything? Well, then I'll make a motion. We approve the April meeting minutes.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, Alan, will you call the vote, please?
Roll call, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Marty.
Aye.
Scott. How about the other Scott?
Aye.
All right, Susie.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Pam.
Aye.
All right, that passes, sir.
Okay, and Mark, is this, did you want to move this LUC up to this level, or where did you want to move it?
As soon as we can, if we're allowed to, that'd be great.
Okay, well, yeah, let's look at the public comments. Anybody out there have public comments for items that aren't on the agenda?
Yes, this is Tom Wilson. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So my name is Tom Wilson. I'm a member of the Bel Air Second Edition Dock Association, which is located at 2597 South Shore Boulevard on the south side of the lake, obviously. And we're trying to figure out, kind of what configurations we're allowed to have. And, it's a large association with lots of different opinions, lots of different history related to people that have, lived around the lake for a number of years. Historically, we've had up to 4 boats, and our neighbors are taking issue with that and do not want us to have 4 boats out this year. And we certainly are trying to work with them as kind of a first approach, but we would also like to be able to get some advice from a long-term perspective, as even if we're able to work something out with these neighbors. Having a boat and or a lift, right, is a large financial investment, and nobody in the association wants to be stuck with a boat they can't use, if a new neighbor comes in, for instance, and says, hey, you can't have it. So I don't expect to get kind of a ruling from this group, but I'm trying to figure out what our best path forward is, given kind of the various opinions we've heard, by doing our own research, consulting, making phone calls, and so on and so forth.
Where is your access located?
2597 South Shore Boulevard.
2597 South Shore.
Yep, it's a 20-foot wide parcel of property that was shared ownership amongst our approximately 50 members.
And what you said, you had 4 boats?
That's what we've had historically. but the neighbors are claiming that, you know, you can't get 4 boats in there without using their ADUA. And so you just can't do it, right? And, you know, if I draw up a map, it seems like it's logistically possible, but right, we certainly, you know, have heard that, you know, you can potentially be fined $700, so we don't want to do something, and then, you know, next thing you know, we're fined $700, and, you know, per day. Well, you know, we just thought we were doing what we were allowed to do.
Mark, do you have any advice?
Yeah, I was down there Monday. I think I talked, is Katie your wife?
Yeah, you talked to my wife, Mark.
Talked to Katie. She's a prosecutor for Dakota County. This, just so everybody knows, this also happens to be one of the neighboring lots is Luke Michaud. And so I've spoken to them, I've spoken to him. I guess they were supposed to talk at 1 o'clock on Monday. I haven't heard back from either of them, and that's fine. The thing is there's an ADUA, and you can't access or egress your dock, your lifts, by going through somebody else's. And in the past, if the neighbors have said they've allowed it, then they've allowed it, but there's nothing that we have that allows it. So if you can get 4 boats in and out in 20 feet of width without going into theirs, then yeah. If you can work something out, I don't know if you could slam it over to one side and cock them at a 45-degree angle and make it work. I don't know. But right now, it looks like you can put like 2 lifts in to come straight in and out, and that's probably about 20 feet.
Well,
Yeah,
my
so I do have,
neighbors use my ADUA all the time.
could you repeat that, Susan?
My neighbors use my ADUA to get in and out of their docks all the time. I don't really see a problem with it. That was something that the Conservation District set up. So I guess I'm having a problem understanding why it's okay in one area and not in another.
Yeah, so
Are you okay with that, Susan? I guess I'm missing the point. Are you okay with them doing that?
Not particularly, but unfortunately, that's what the Conservation District set up. And
Well,
I
Mark
can't
just
do
said
anything.
the opposite, though.
Pardon me?
I think Mark just said the opposite.
He did. He said that the Conservation District can't set that up. But in my case, they did. And my neighbors use it all the time.
I don't remember ever approving anybody to use anybody else's ADUA since I've been here.
Well, the only way they get in and out is to use my ADUA, 20 feet of it.
So Tom, do you have a dock in with 4 slips? Is that what you have in now?
That's no, because they've threatened to, you know, take action. So, you know, we moved our dock once already because of a disagreement of how it was placed the first time. So now you know, nothing's on anyone else's property, but, you know, we only have 2 lifts in there right now because we're just trying to make sure we do what's right and fair. You know, my interpretation is that we could slam a dock all the way to the side, but then I'm hearing, you know, hey, you've got to be 5 feet away, you got to be 10 feet away. And, you know, I don't.
And I that's sometimes happens with these disputes is when people get like, you know, territorial, they'll put their dock sometimes right on the boundary, and we don't, or equipment, and that's not allowed. If that's the case, then we will require a 5-foot setback from the property line. But there's plenty of docks out there where that's not the case. And, you know, there's people who use their neighbor's ADUA and their neighbors don't mind. And there's people who put their dock right on the property line and their neighbors don't mind. But once their neighbors say something, we have to go back to our ordinance and say, well, here's the thing, structures can't be closer than 10 feet apart. You know, there has to be navigable space in between the structures.
Yeah.
So then in that case, we go, you go 5 feet this way, you go 5 feet this way.
Okay. And that's where it's hard for me because it feels like that's an undue hardship. on us, as we only have 20 feet. So if both of our neighbors were to do that, we would be left with 10 feet. And right, they've got, 40 and 70 feet. So
You'd still
Right.
have 20.
no, but we could only use 10.
Only use 10 for the 5-foot setback.
No,
Yep.
no, your dock has to be set back 5 foot. Well, that's true because your equipment would be in the water at a 5-foot setback. You got 20 feet. It's not a lot. And so whatever you can fit in your 20 feet to come in and out and, work out with the neighbors, I'm sure
We're at the real meet.
that, I mean, have they said they won't let you put 2 in, that you can only put 10 feet in?
We're working through that, which
Okay.
is why we haven't put any boats in the water even yet. And it's a short summer, so that's why we're trying to figure it out as soon as we can. And
Well, I don't know, Mark, what do you think? Anything the board can do, or just say, good luck, Tom, getting it in? And if you run into any specific issues, come and ask us about it. What do you think?
Keep working with us and the neighbors. Right now, there's no violations that I know of. And all I can say is we have ordinances, and unless there's a hardship, then you have to follow those ordinances.
I did go down and look at the line. The line is really tight. So I'm not sure how you'd get more than 2 in there without really, really teeny lifts and teeny boats. It's a small, narrow access. But I suppose that's the best thing to do is work it out with the 2 neighbors.
okay.
Okay, well, that doesn't seem very satisfying, Tom, but that seems like that's where we're at. So I guess work with your neighbors, see if they will accommodate your, your use of their ADUA, and hopefully that works out for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so anybody else for the 15
Tom?
minutes? Okay. Then we'll move on. So the next item will be the LUC report. LUC committee, Mark.
So we met with Tallies, and we finally at the end pulled it all together. Part of it was me not understanding some semantics, but so what we looked at the DNR permit. The DNR permits allows for 50 in the water and 6 tiller fishing boats. Thank you. On skids. And then they also have rentals, so that's like canoes and kayaks and things like that. We're more worried about the actual boats. So and also they're at 340 feet, which we brought everybody back to 300 feet once we got above ordinary high water, which is the end of the actual ADUA only goes to 300, unless there's a variance for hardship, and with the low water, we gave them. But if you look at the map, on the top left are the aqua docks. So if we slide all the Tallies docks back another 40 feet, they're now directly across from those aqua slips. And this year, we're just going to give them, my proposal is to let them go with what the DNR allowed them, which is the 50 in the water and the 6 on skids off the water. And then we'll allow them a variance this year for the 40 feet. And next year, when they reapply, that we'll try to work it out between the neighbors. And that's what we approved at my LUC meeting, and I so move.
Just could I have a little clarification here?
Hey, excuse me. Hey, we're not going to take any input at the moment, if that's okay. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, so a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Am I able to talk? I'm not on the board itself.
No, thank you. This is just amongst the board members. Thank you, Mr.
That's
Ge-
fine.
Yeah.
Alan, can you put that back up, please? So the customer dock that seems to be the problem, is that going to stay there where it is this year?
Where's the problem with the customer dock?
That's the IGO dock up in the left corner.
Oh, the aqua dock?
Yep.
No, I'm thinking of, it says customer dock.
Yeah.
Some
Other
use
side.
water
Other
access.
side.
Oh,
It's
that's
the
Steve's fuel
transient.
dock.
Yeah. And isn't that the problem at
No.
hand we're having here, that Brian is up in arms about his ADUA being used?
Well, they're using, what Tallies is using is the Whitaker ADUA, the Whitaker Street ADUA, which is the city. And the city manager was on our last call, and she seemed absolutely fine with it. If you see
Well,
that line there, just to the bottom of that customer dock, that's the
Yeah.
actual, where the Whitaker Street ADUA with the city, and then White Bear Docks.
Okay. Well, when I looked at it, I mean, it looked to me like there was plenty of room for them to get in and out without using McGoldrick's
Yeah.
ADUA.
And actually, if you look, it's Aqua and Tallies that are actually cohabitating, because if you look at the Aqua docks, there's no way they're getting in and out without using Tallies ADUA.
True.
Tallies is willing to allow them to do it.
Okay.
Okay, so Mark, just to clarify, are we doing what they're asking for, including a variance? Is there anything that we're denying in what your motion is suggesting?
Yeah, so the DNR looks at boats a little differently than we do, and we mostly care about actual boats that are in the water. And so when they were applying for 65, I was assuming they wanted 65 boats. But the 19 extra are canoes and kayaks that are, see that says on the far left in the middle, it says platform storage. That's where they store the 19 canoes and kayaks.
Okay.
So we were like, that's fine. If that's what you're gonna do, as long as they're not boats there.
Mhm.
So it's 50 boats in the water and then 6 tillers on there. And it's 42 rental slips, 7 pontoon rentals, which are, right along the header dock there. And then the 6, basically small fishing boats with tiller steers that get pulled up onto skids off the water.
That's the R8 through 13.
Yep. So that's what was agreed upon in our LUC meeting.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me. So, any other discussion on the motion? No further discussion?
No.
Okay. Alan, will you call the vote, please?
Happy to, Mr. Chair. How do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gans,
Aye.
Mr. Costello,
Aye.
Ms. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
Cameron. Cameron, you in with us?
His microphone is turned
Cameron.
off.
Yeah, he's off. I just tried to unmute him. Anyway, we'll move along to Marty.
Sorry about that. Hey.
Are you back? How do you vote, sir?
Aye. Technical
Right.
difficulties. Sorry.
Happens to the best of us. Now Marty's gone, right? Anyway, Mr. Chair, you do have a majority, so
Aye.
oh, there's Marty's back. Marty?
I'm eating dinner. Sorry. Aye.
And did Mike, did you vote, Mike Pronto?
I haven't yet. I'm voting
So-
aye.
Sorry, Mike. The challenge with yours is, are you just showing up as a number? Is that how you're on the meeting?
I can see myself here.
He's
I see you.
204.
204822.
Okay, that's you and then Mike. All right, so we got one from Mike. Marty, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, that's all ayes, Chair.
Okay. Mark, anything else on the LUC agenda?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So we're back up to new business. And we've had another person, Scott Bonin, that has requested to be on the LUC, and so I'm going to appoint Scott to the LUC. Thank you, Scott. If you're still on, congratulations. And you know when the LUC meetings are, so we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much.
And then the next, yeah, thank you. And the next item is discussion of wake boats and wake surfing guidelines. Scott Costello, do you want to get us going on this, or what? What do we think? I'd just like to have some discussion about this.
Yeah, well, I just did a little bit of research. There was, I guess, a few things that I raised that would be interesting just as a matter of research. I guess the first is that there was a bill in the legislature that would prohibit big wakes within 200 feet of the shore. And I'm wondering, maybe I know, Alan, do you know how that bill wound up when they entered the legislature yesterday?
I do not actually. I was watching more of the fireworks than I was with the details, but I can certainly look that up and get that to you guys. It seems with everything that was going on this session, it could be very easily left in committee, though.
Yeah, I mean, the most recent thing I could find online was from March.
Yep.
So I'm thinking it probably died.
Yeah, a lot of those things like that are just single issue things that are brought by legislators from those districts, and then they never make it out of conference.
Yeah, and I know some of just from the news reports about it, is that there was there's a lot of disagreement about what a proper setback is. A lot of people thought 200 feet was too small.
You're too small? Wow.
It should be, some people are saying, well, it should be like 1,000 feet. But I didn't see any clear evidence about what it was. So that's first thing. And then the other thing, the person who brought this to us was saying that it was an issue before the Lake Minnetonka Conservation District. And I think Kim was trying to contact them as to what they're doing with it.
I didn't see her send anything out in advance of the meeting.
No, I didn't get anything.
Okay. Okay, the only other thing I could point out here is that we do have, in our ordinances, we don't have anything about wake boats in the ordinances. There are a number of things that I shared with you guys about wakes in general. And there is something on personal watercraft like jet skis that you cannot be creating wakes with those within 300 feet of the shore, or the way the ordinance talks is between the 100 feet, which is kind of the ADUA limit, and then out to 300 feet that the personal watercraft can't be creating big wakes. So it would make sense to take that ordinance for personal watercraft and either extend it or replicate it to discuss wake surfing, with the same kind of, restrictions, the 300 feet. But it's hard to say what it really should be. We do have an ordinance on the books that says that you can't create wakes that wind up destroying property or interfering with other people's use of the lake. But there's no specific size to that. Now, if we wanted to create an ordinance, along the lines of what we have for personal watercraft, just based on the last ordinance change we made, it's kind of a long process. Basically, you wouldn't be doing anything this year to do it at the ordinance level. You'd be starting a process, and it would probably take effect, for next year.
Okay.
Thoughts on that?
So we have, so our current situation is no wake within 200 foot of the shore. and personal watercraft that gets extended out another 100 feet, so that's 300. And
For personal watercraft, yeah.
and so then I guess the question the board needs to respond to, it seems, is, are we happy with our ordinance as is, or do we want to do something about about this to try to keep those wakes further away from the shore? And anybody have any strong feelings about that?
I think it would be great because I certainly see a lot of shore eroding. However, who's going to enforce it?
I think the policy is good where it is right now. And the reason I say that is the ice does more damage to the shore right now than any of these waves could do. So if you're being affected by the ice, which I had a bunch of landscaping get crumbled, you know, sure, some more of that can happen from waves, but most of that's going to happen from the ice. So unless you're going to, you know, start delegating what the ice can do, I don't think we should be delegating what the boats can do. 200 feet is good.
Yeah, my biggest problem with these guys is if I'm fishing or just sitting out there anchored somewhere and they come blasting by me 50 feet away and I just get rocked. And I think they're not supposed to be doing that either. But to Susie's point, how is it? It's not very enforceable because unless the sheriffs are out there and see it, they can't do anything about it.
Okay, so we will we'll table this for the moment, and if somebody wants to bring it up at a future meeting, if we hear about a lot of issues with wakes, then we will bring it back at that time.
It is nice to create a record, so perhaps as a matter of public service, making sure that people, when they do get rocked, as Mark calls it, they need to call a sheriff so they know what to look for when they're out on the water. So if that's a problem, if that's, you know, it's like speeding down the street, people call, and that's what speed enforcement is. So if that's really what's going on, then we have to tell the law enforcement folks to step up, at least giving warnings, if not tickets, for that stuff.
Sure. You don't see any action that the board needs to take at the moment, though, do you, Alan?
Well, the problem with, what's the old expression, right? When you outlaw guns, only outlaws have guns. You know, if you just make it a farther out restriction, the people that are going to do that are going to do it anyway. So, like I said, I think if the word gets out that white bear is just not that much fun to wake surf on, then there will be less of it. So a couple of tickets have to get issued, and those crowds are pretty tight, and it becomes self-correcting once some enforcement happens. But if everyone just salutes them with a finger and goes about their business and ignores it, they never get caught, so they keep doing it. So,
okay.
The other thing, Brian, is most of the, you know, I'm at least relatively familiar with the Matamidi side of the lake and who owns which wakeboard boats, because my kids are out there a lot. And most of those kids are pretty respectful of, you know, staying in the middle of the lake where it's deeper, because apparently wake surfing is better when it's deeper water. And secondly, they're just not going to be foolish. So I think a lot of these things that are done are likely done by visitors. So I think that most of the kids that are using the wakeboard boats that live on the lake are being respectful of others.
Yeah, I agree. They haven't been any of the ones I've known. And I know the same group.
Okay. So the way we'll leave it is we're satisfied with our ordinance as is, and if people have issues with this item on the lake, call it in for enforcement.
Great.
Okay. So we're on to unfinished business. There is no unfinished business. So reports, action items. The first one is executive committee, and we did have an executive committee meeting, and just a couple of items that both are on the agenda under different areas. But one is relief for member communities on the assessment, and then the other is study for Commercial Bay. And the study for Commercial Bay is here. So our idea is that the board should investigate a study of the Commercial Bay to see if we can come up with some some firmer footing for establishing the number of slips in Commercial Bay. You know, that it seems like it's a Lake Quality Committee item. But I haven't talked to Mike about it, so I'll just let you know that that's something that the executive committee talked about, and our plan is to bring that forward, try to get some movement on it this year, and then do the actual study next year. Any questions on that?
Brian, would that be like the study that was done in 2005? Recommending how many slips were available?
Yeah, I think that the board would have to decide that, Susie, but I think generally like that, you know, I don't, at least what I'm seeing or what I'm envisioning would be not a lake-wide study, but a Commercial Bay focused study. And we would have to, as a board, would have to outline what it is we want. Do we want to know how many slips are best for Commercial Bay? What are pollutant levels of things that might be associated with having a lot of people in a small area? You know, things like that. And I don't know the answer to all of those things, but the board would have to get those things down on paper so we can go out and ask qualified firms to give us a cost to do that work.
Okay.
Okay, so what would be the next step?
Well, the next step is to figure out where something like this would lie. And if it's the Lake Quality Committee, then it's the Lake Quality Committee. And then I think it's coming up with what I think of as a scope of work, something that identifies what it is the board's after. And so that would be something that the Lake Quality Committee would develop and then bring to the board, and the board would look at it and say yes or no, or I'd like it better this way or that way. And I don't think it has to be just the Lake Quality Committee. You know, I think you know, we could have people help as people are interested. But how about if we do this? How about if between now and our next meeting, our June meeting, you let me know if you're interested in helping with something like that at a committee level. And then I'll also, between now and then, I'll have a conversation with Mike about how he sees this work getting done with the Lake Quality Committee. Okay, good for that for now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we're on to the lake, to the next item, which is the Lake Quality Committee. Mike.
Thank you. I'm here you're talking about me, so I better say something.
Yeah.
The lake level is 925.08. Again, 925.08. And that's about the same as last year. The lake temperature is 58 degrees. And it was 56 degrees last year, so it's about the same. And then the last thing is the applicator bid. We have a bid which was sent to you with your package of information from Lake Management for treatment. And the things that we're looking at to use are things that we've used before, and that is the 2,4-D at $436 an acre. 46 an acre. And Triclopure we've used that before, that's $576 an acre. And I also asked for depth charge, which is something we've used in the past with success, and we finally got a price on it today. So it's not on your list, but if you want to add it to it, depth charge is $566 an acre. And last year we used a combination of depth charge on half the lake and 2,4-D on the other half. And this year I'm thinking that depending on the survey that I might just flip-flop and use one where the other was used and the other where the first one was used, so that we can keep hitting it with different products, keeping it at bay. Had good success last year. And so that'll happen. We're budgeted for it. We have plenty of money in the budget, I believe, after the survey, and so I will not exceed the budget, so we're all set to go. It'll be a survey, and then we'll time the application to the best temperature and water quality type situation as far as calmness and that type of thing to get it done. So it probably will not happen before the June. The treatment probably will not happen before the June meeting. The survey may happen before the June meeting. I'll keep you abreast of that. So it's just kind of taking its way. We've got budget for it, and away it goes. So takes care of my summer. Any questions? Don't hear any questions, so I guess I'm done.
Oh, well, actually, I had added another item. And first of all, thanks for handling all that, Mike. I'd added another item, and that's the buoys for the loon nest.
Yeah.
I added that. What do you think we ought to do about that, Mike?
Well, I was over there the other day, and as far as the no-wake buoys in the channel, when you go under the bridge or you enter the channel from the south, you can see all 4 buoys lined up. And so it's pretty obvious what's going on there, well taken care of. As you come out of that channel, there's an area, it's kind of a deep hole. It's very good fishing, and there were 6 different fishing boats in that area at the time I was there. And then across from that, there is an anchored loon nest that Ellen Moss puts in. She puts in several around the lake. And so the anchored loon nest is not where the loons are nesting. Apparently they're nesting in the weeds right behind it, very low weeds. I didn't see any evidence of loons there. It looked like there was water running through there and they wouldn't nest there, but apparently that some of the email juice said that there were loons nesting in that area. Next to that area on that particular day was a buoy that looked just like our no-wake buoys, except it had printed in about 6 to 7 inch letters, it said caution loon nesting area. So I thought, well, that's pretty obvious, obviously, and there were no fishermen around that area at all because it starts to get really shallow by that weed bed, and loons like it to be deeper. So it was well marked on that day. Now, today when I went by there, that buoy that said caution loon nesting area was gone. So I'm not sure if Ellen moves that around the lake to her different loon nest floating little pontoon things that she has, or she just decided to take it out of there. As far as adding a no-wake buoy there, it's not like there's a channel or a passageway or anything that would stop you from, that would designate a no-wake area. It just doesn't make sense. It's also fairly shallow there, so nobody's going to go by there really fast and probably hit the bottom if they did. So personally, I don't think that we need a no-wake buoy by the loon, by where potentially the loon is nesting.
Okay, so then I guess the option or one option would be to instead of having a no-wake, having a buoy out there that says loon nesting area.
Well, there was one there, but it was gone today when I looked.
Yeah, understood. Okay, well, so we'll communicate back with those folks and just let them know that it doesn't seem like a no-wake buoy would be beneficial there, and see if they have any other thoughts for us, hey?
I agree.
All right. Okay, any other questions for Mike? Okay, thank you, Mike. So we're moving on to the Lake Education Committee. Scott.
No activity.
Okay. Any questions for Scott?
Oh, we did post, we discussed last month doing some COVID-19 pandemic information. That did go up on the website. You can take a look at it and see what we did. Basically, we have links to the county and the cities.
Okay.
To their websites.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so we're on to the treasurer's report. Diane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have the treasurer's report for May 2020. I would like to make a motion to approve checks 4638 through 4642.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve those checks. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oh, I'm
Aye.
sorry. Sorry, we'll let Alan. Alan, can you call the vote, please?
Happy to, sir. Mr. Chair,
Aye.
Mr. Costello. Scott,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Mr. Peranto,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Brian. I guess I got you. Diane.
Aye.
The problem is everyone skips around on my list as they say aye, so it makes the list on my computer jump around a little bit. Scott O'Connor.
Aye.
And I don't think I missed anyone.
Aye.
Cam
Aye.
Cam, there you
and
go.
Marty.
And Marty.
Marty.
All right, thanks. That's all ayes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Diane?
Thank you. Next, we have the budget for 2021. I'd like to go over the budget, but is that going to be something that all of you can do without a printout? What are you thinking?
Alan, can you put that up on our screen or not?
I'm just about to try and find it here in our agenda packet so I can do exactly that.
Great.
Yeah, this is, in case it's helpful, Alan, this is what we're after here, hey?
No, I've got it. Oh,
Yeah. Perfect. Way to go.
Oh, nice.
does that work for everybody?
Very nice.
Just tell me when you need me to scroll through it, Diane.
Okay. So why don't we start with 4150? And that is in our revenue column. And let's see, I need to go up a little bit. There you go. Thank you. So $1,000 is in there. And if anybody wants to change any of these as we go through them, just let me know, please. So that's 1,000. And then if you go down to the next 4151, I talked to Mark and we came up with 25,000. Is that okay with you, Mark?
Yes.
I kind of changed it.
That looks great.
Under interest income, which is 4,200, is $15, and that's from our lake area PDs that we have. Going down, we have insurance refunds. We put in $50.
54.
54?
Uh-huh.
No, 50.
Oh, it's 50 over here.
50.
Oh, weird budget.
It's
Sorry.
in the proposed budget, it's 50
Yeah.
for 21.
Yep. So.
Hey, and hey, Diane?
Yeah.
Should we ask questions as we go, or should we wait till you're done and then ask, or how would you prefer we proceed here?
Let's just ask as we go.
Okay, so the license unit fees, those are basically the commercial kind of docks. And can you just give us the background on the 25,000? Does that assume a certain number of slips occupied or what?
Yeah. I don't have it in front of me. Do you, Mark, have what you?
I can get the email I sent you and pretty quick if you want to
Yeah.
go into something else real quick.
Okay, I'm kind of looking for it too. Okay, so, oh, I found it. So we thought about Docks of White Bear, 225 slips times, they actually come out to be 11,375. And then Miso was 625 with their 10 slips. White Bear Boat Works is 1,125 for their 160 slips. The VFW is 1,525 for their 28 slips. And we didn't have tallies in at the time because it wasn't approved. So then I just added in some for tallies and came up with the 25,000.
Okay.
How much more specific would you like that to be?
No, I think I think that's good for me. Anybody have any other questions up to where Diane's at the moment?
Yeah, I just figured out tallies for what we voted on tonight. It's $2,925 with their $125 application fee.
Okay, so
2,925.
okay. So I think that's what I put in for them approximately.
Good. It looks
Okay.
good.
So that brings our total of revenue without the communities to $26,065 projected for 2021.
Okay.
Okay. So then going down into our expenditures, starting with 6010, we have the water patrol costs, 4,920, and you can see the breakdown there. Next one would be Eurasian water milk oil treatment, 6034, and that's $32,000, which Mike requested. The next ones are pretty much all of the ones he requested. So 6036 is the plant survey for Eurasian, and that's 3,500. $6045 other aquatic plants, 2,500 for Phragmites. 6050 is 2,500, and that's actually for the website for education. So that's under Scott's, and that was his request. 6050 is 600. And I didn't put anything in 6071 for the Lakeview study for next year, just because I don't know if we're going to be doing something, or if we are, what the cost would be. But you can see how much the cost was in 2005 was $23,800. 6110 administrative services, that's 39,500. You can see
Can I
the
ask a
break.
question about that? About the
Sure.
administrative services?
Yeah.
In 2019, it was 29,294, and then this year it's 31,000, and now it's jumped way up to 39,500. How come? You know, in 2 years, that's a over a $10,000 increase. What was the reasoning there?
We had changed. We didn't actually calculate the para in there before. Is that right, Kim?
Correct. I also got a raise of 10% at that time. And also then at that time, we increased hours as well.
Yeah, so those all added into that.
Yeah, and I think part of it, Mike, is that Kim got a raise kind of mid-cycle, and so that raise came out of the reserve fund, and
Correct.
so
It was in August of last year.
yeah. So then that big change from 31 to 39, that is just catching up with that.
So it's not really 39?
No, it is really 39. It's
The
just
31
that,
is what's misleading.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's just 31 plus a little bit out of the reserve fund for last year.
Would it be more like 35, 36 if you factored that in?
That's
32
something
hours.
like that. That's right.
32 hours a week, it's about $40,000.
Okay. I don't know, Mike, do you want to do something with that, or should we just keep moving, or what are you thinking?
It just seems like a big jump to me, but I guess I don't know all the numbers aren't necessarily there, but to have a $10,000 raise over a 2-year period is a pretty good job.
Okay. Diane, keep
Um,
going.
6111 is 100. And 6113 is 2,500. 6120 for our legal expenses is 12,000. Next page for me. Insurance premiums 1,200. 6140.
Hello,
Diane?
Diane?
Can't hear.
Oh, lost her.
We see
Well,
if
we
she's
could-
around.
I also thought, until Diane comes back, I thought of something else, Mike, that might help you understand some of the increase in that administrative number. As also, we got rid of Courtney, who used to be Mary something. She did all the bookkeeping in the QuickBooks and all of that when I came on. And so we've saved thousands of dollars each month from that as well, which increased my hours a little bit, but we also then no longer have to pay outside fees for that.
Okay, so Kim does that now.
Yeah, I do all of it now. Yeah.
So I'll just keep going with Diane's numbers until she can get back in here. But basically, you can see we have some additional expenditures here, insurance premium, professional services, and that's got an audit calculated in there. It looks like it, if I'm seeing that right.
Yes.
And
Next year will be audit year.
Yeah. And then office rent is what we pay the city of White Bear. And then software, that's for software licenses, I assume, Kim.
Yes.
And then, yeah, I'm trying to, so then some copy, postage, telephone costs that we pay the city. $2,000 for membership, seminar subscription, and $600 for what we used to do, meeting cablecast. And now I guess we just have the audio out there now.
Yes.
Kim, do you know what the $2,000 for membership seminars?
That is for our membership in like the League of,
Minnesota Cities.
yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. So, Alan, any sign of our intrepid treasurer, Diane?
Oddly, no, and she hasn't apparently decided to hop back in, so she is AWOL.
Oh.
Okay. So, so I guess looking at the budget, the what Diane did and Kim is they looked at the projected 2021 budget revenue and expenditures, and you can see at the bottom of the second page they made those equal. And the way they make those equal is they adjust the income that we get from the city, or the revenue that we get from the cities. And so if I'm looking at this correctly, in 2020, we asked for 70,500, and in 2021, we're asking for $89,025. So we've gone up by about $19,000 or so.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
In the apportionment of the from the cities, or the assessment from the cities.
Yes.
Okay, so it's May, and what we will do is we will vote on this in a final way at our June meeting. And so are there any questions that anybody has about any of those items that we should discuss now? And we can discuss again at the June meeting. You know, that opportunity will still be there. But if there are things that we can hash through now, that's good. Good. Anybody have anything they want to talk about regarding the budget?
I have a question,
Sure.
Mike. The increase, well, we have to decide on the increase if we make any of that out of the general fund or send it all on to the cities. And then the other thing that we talked about a while back and haven't talked about for probably a year or more was what was the carryover? We don't know what the carryover will be for this year because obviously there's a lot of year to go. But what was the carryover from 2019? In other words, what did we budget and did we spend it all or did we not spend it all? And that if we did not spend it all, then we potentially over collected a little bit. That would be used to reduce future budgets.
I don't think we collected last year.
I don't know.
Yeah, we didn't.
Skipped it. Didn't we skip
yeah.
the assessment?
Oh,
To
wait,
bring down the reserve?
2019 we didn't. Oh, okay.
Right, 2018, we did not collect in, we
Okay.
did not bill them, so,
Okay,
and for,
But that's not really the question. The question
oh,
was,
sorry.
did we spend 100% of the budget or 110 or 90% of the budget?
So I think, and I don't know the answer to your question, Mike, but maybe we can add this into the discussion as well. And that is the fund reserve. And, you know, I think as of the end of 2019, our fund reserve, and do you know that number off the top of your head, Kim? Was it like 148, something like that?
I don't, I'm sorry. It seems like
Okay.
it's maybe 145, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so, and I think, well, our policy that we established is 150 to 200,000% of our 200,000. 150 to 200%. And so, you know, if our budgets, for talking purposes, let's just say 80,000, you know, that would be around 140 to 160,000, something like that, 130 to 160,000. So we're within that. And Mike, you know, you kind of broke up, at least to me, but what you were saying is that you want us to talk about dipping into the fund reserve to reduce the amount of assessment that we apply to each city. Is that what you were thinking, Mike, or what?
Well, that's one of the questions that we asked that, you know, we can ask ourselves, do we want to do that? And the other was, the reasoning was, if we didn't spend all of our budget in this case, it would be 2019, because we don't know what 2020, how we'll spend that, is if we didn't spend all of our budget, then how much was left over that we'd planned to spend but didn't spend, and that went into the general fund? And would we use that to reduce the money needed for 2021 budget?
Yeah, so I think that I think it's really hard to answer your question there, but I think where we get a snapshot is December 31st, 2019, or December 31st, end of the year. That shows us, because by then we've taken in all the revenue we're going to get in 2019, and we've had all of our expenditures that we're going to get in 2019, and that amount was, again, something like 145,000 is what we had at the end of 2019. And can I just build on what you're thinking, Mike? I'd just like to offer something up. You know, first off, I'd like to offer up that we should discuss, and this is kind of maybe where Mike's going, if there's an opportunity for us to reduce the assessments to the cities, even if we dig into our fund reserve a little bit. But one way that we could do that is that, as it turns out, Mike, and Kim, you correct me if I'm wrong, but none of the cities have paid their 2020 assessments. And is that correct, Kim?
That is correct.
So, so we have an and they'll be paying those, let's say, any day. And
Yes.
we have an opportunity, knowing what was in our fund reserve for at the end of 2019, maybe using some of that money to reduce their assessments that are due now. You know what I'm saying? And so, and we would have that opportunity each year, really. After December 31st, we would know what the fund reserve was, and we could revisit if we wanted the assessments, because the cities don't pay them, let's say before
Right.
March 8th.
That's true.
Okay, that's not exactly what I was getting at.
Hmm.
I will have to explain myself better at the next meeting.
Okay. Well, so I would like to raise that point. This is one of the things that I added to, and I assume Diane's not back. Is that right, Alan?
I was about to say, Mr. Chair, she did come back on, so she should be there. Diane?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm here,
Good.
sorry. My
Uh,
Go ahead.
That's yeah. So Diane, we worked our way through the rest of the budget,
Okay.
and talked about how we'll vote on it in a final way in June, and then we talked for a bit about the assessment.
Are there any changes from where I left off? When my
No,
computer shut down?
no.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, nobody offered any.
No.
okay, thank you.
And so the assessments to the city, the cities, we have a fund reserve of something over $100,000 at the moment, probably. And I would like to see what people think about reducing the 2020 assessments amount by something like 30%. Which, if I do the math right, is about $21,000 that would be spread out amongst the 5-member communities. And
Which one, Brian? The 2021 amount reduced by 30%?
the 2020, the ones
Oh,
that they're about
2020.
ready to pay.
The ones that haven't been paid yet. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that they're about ready to pay, and so that total was $70,500 in our budget.
Yes.
So 30% of that, hopefully that's around 21,000. And so that 21,000 then, assuming we would realize those expenses some way during the year, would come out of the fund reserve.
So that would bring the fund reserve down to what, at 124?
Yeah, I don't know where it's at exactly, Susie, but let's say still,
45, yeah.
yeah, still north of 100,000.
That seems reasonable.
What is that?
As of May, our fund balance is $123,276, but that's without income and any expenses, a lot of big expenses going out for the year yet.
And we wouldn't dip into the fund reserve unless we needed to, so somewhere later in the year.
Right.
Where do you, Brian, where do you come up with this 21,000? How did that number come to be?
So what I did, Mike, is I took 70,500, which is the total for the cities in 2020, is what we had projected, and multiplied that by a point. Well, I did 0.3, 30%, and that's 21,150. So that means if we, sorry.
Why would you want to do that?
Just because we have a fund reserve, and I think we could do it and not hurt our fund reserve. And at this moment, it seems like it would be good for us to ease the burden on the cities as much as we can. Their revenues going through the floor as well. So that's really the motivation, Mike.
Okay.
But then we'd still charge them the increased amount for 2021.
That's what we would show them, and then we would have this same discussion next March, April.
I was thinking that we would charge them the regular amount like we had planned to do. and then go back and see what we didn't spend in 2019 and apply that to the increased budget for 2021. I'm pretty sure we did not spend all of our budget. So that's what I'm trying to explain. So in other words, instead of cutting it in the revenues that are coming in, go back a year and see if we used all those revenues. And if we didn't use all those revenues, then use that difference to reduce the budget for the coming year.
But not do anything with this year's.
Right.
So Mike, if you look at the budget worksheet for 2019, it looks like we didn't spend 7,863. Is that what dollars? Is that what you're referring to? The difference between our expenditures and our revenue for 2019.
We budgeted 109, and we spent 98.
98.
We spent 98.
We spent 90. So
We spent 90. Okay.
yeah, so we had a surplus of $7,863 for 2019.
Okay. That we did not spend.
Yes, out of our budget that we had budgeted.
So I was thinking we would use that then to reduce the 2020 year. So we'd lag a year behind, but that way we could certainly say that we're not budgeting, or we're not collecting from the city and then building our savings. We're using everything.
Yeah, so that idea then would be to take the 7863, if I'm reading that right, and split that up amongst the 5 communities to reduce their 2020 amounts. Do I have that right, Mike?
2021.
Got it. Okay.
2021.
Would you be okay using that money, because that money's sitting in our fund reserve? Would you be okay taking that amount and reducing the 2020 allotments?
No.
Okay.
They didn't pay anything last year.
Correct.
You know, and if we reduce it this year, then they'll get hit even harder next year.
Well, one thing to think about too is if we do
7,800. Trying to smooth it out so that, you know, they didn't pay last year, so that's down to the bottom. But now we come back with the assessment this year, and then it'll be a little bit more next year, but we'll reduce it by that 7,800. So that we're kind of trying to balance things out.
Yeah, and I think they did actually pay last year, Mike, hey? I think 2018 is when they didn't pay.
Right.
That's correct.
2018, okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I think to think about is if we do an environmental impact study on Commercial Bay, you're looking at probably close to $30,000.
Yeah, because the last time in 2005, it was 23,800. So I'm sure it'll be close to 30, like Mark says.
Yeah. And we're talking about adding environmental or chemical pollutant studies that we didn't do in 2005. Is that right, Mike?
We're going to create the endpoints in the future. We're just talking about, you know, we'll all have input in what we want out of the study. So we haven't decided any of that yet. But we know that if we have one, whatever the endpoints are, that we are going to have to pay for it.
Yeah, but it could be a lot more than 30,000 if you're doing additional analyses.
Could be. My point was, I know we're going to spend at least 30 next year.
Yeah.
Right now, there's nothing in the budget for that. So if we spend, that would be a deficit spending situation for 2021. And I don't know, will there be costs this year for that? Because we have nothing budgeted for this year. I don't know if there's going to be any money spent this year for that study.
Right, there could be, I guess, but probably wouldn't be much. Okay, so we had some discussion about, that I raised, about 30%. I'm not going to make a motion. Anybody else out there want to make a motion around that? Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, so.
Just one other, I'm sorry. One other thought is, we have a $50,000 deduction on our insurance if there ever was any litigation against the board. So that's just another thought of money that we would need in reserve.
Yep, sure, understood.
Okay.
But Brian, Brian,
Susie?
is it possible to use that that amount of money that wasn't used in 2019 to put towards that study for 2021? So we would reduce it by $7,000+ instead of giving it back to the communities?
So, I think that'd be an option. I think with Mike's idea, a decision doesn't have to be made at least until our June meeting when we finalize the budget. And so I would say let's wait and have that discussion then, because that'll impact the amount of assessment that we're asking each community for in 2021. Mike, if you're okay, if we just raise that item again at the June meeting.
Sure.
Okay. And Susie, obviously to your question, that's something that could be brought up anytime. How if people want to use the reserve fund, people can bring up ideas for that anytime and let the board make a decision one way or the other. Hey.
Okay.
Okay. So anything else for you, Diane?
Nope, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I disconnected.
Oh, no, that's right. Okay, so we're on to the board council report. Alan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Got a BWI last month. Of course, with the courts being shut down, there's no dates really being given as far as processing through the court system. That was on the Ramsey County side of the lake. Obviously, last month was our Zoom meeting. I believe that got properly transmitted through the Cable Commission group. I didn't hear any complaints. I sent a rather large file over to them, and I guess that went off without a hitch. So this process,
Yeah, it got loaded on the website and it was good. Yeah, because that's how I took the minutes, was off of that.
so it worked. And so thank you all for being so good and probably feeling native to Zoom now, but last month was a little different. So with that, I'll be able to maybe tell you a little bit more about activity on the lake when some of these citations actually start coming to me, because like I said, they're not even getting really filed right now because the doors aren't open yet. That's going to be presumably lifted by the chief judge as soon as the governor lifts stay at home and things of that nature. But so long as there's basically a 10 or less in a room order out there, the courthouses generally aren't open at all. So.
Okay, any questions for Alan? Okay, thank you, Alan. So next item on the agenda, item 9, announcements. Kim?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Okay, so next item is adjournment. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, Alan, will you call the vote, please?
Yes, I will, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Diane.
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
Mr. Peranto.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Scott Costello.
Aye.
New Scott.
Aye.
Susie.
I already did.
Oh,
Aye.
to the bottom, sorry. Marty.
Aye.
All right, I think that's everybody. Oh, Cam.
Aye.
All right, I think you've had an adjournment, Mr. Chair.
All right, thanks, everyone. We'll see you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.